Hey everybody, welcome back to Going the Distance. This is episode 24. Can you believe we've done 24 episodes? I want to thank you guys for going the distance with me. I want to welcome the new members who are just joining us for the first time and welcome back the members that have joined us from the beginning. Your support means a lot. So we're going to start out this week with the King's Corner. King, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Peter. As I said last week, I'm King James, and I'm here to help bring a little pop culture feel to this show. Because much like sports and music, there's a lot going on in the world of pop culture that we think you might find interesting. So I'm back to help. And this week, we've had another busy week in the world of pop culture. Because we've got two new news items to cover, along with some follow-ups on the stuff I told you about last week. Among them, we have a new show that debuted on Fox this past Monday, The 1% Club, and it's a little unique in the realm of trivia games, that being that all the questions have been posed before the show, but how well you do really depends on how well you think is compared to the general public. Because every question is divided by difficulty based on how much of the general public got it right. And the goal is to be the last one standing. Because there's 100 people in the field as contestants, and every time somebody gets one wrong, they're out of the game. They lose their $1,000 stake, and it goes into the prize pot. At the end, whoever's left in the game has a chance to either walk away with a stake of $10,000, or they can bet it all for a chance to answer the final 1% question, for a chance to take home a share of the prize pot. And last week, we had two gentlemen make it to the end, but only one answered correctly, so he took home the whole $99,000 stake.
Wow.
So Patton Oswalt is the main host, but it's a really interesting show because there's a lot of logic based in the questions. So it's not as simple as your general knowledge trivia that we're used to. So that makes it much more interesting. Meanwhile, on Race to Survive Alaska this past Monday, we actually had a situation where, for the first time this season, we had a team have to bow out due to injury.
Wow.
And I don't know if you've been following the season, but I didn't think about it, but they're working along a 150-mile train in New Zealand, the wilderness. Those marshes are rough, man.
I'm
You don't know
sure.
where you're stepping, but it's tricky up like that. So we had one team be eliminated the old-fashioned way, and one team bow out due to injury. So now only 7 teams remain in the battle for 500K, but there's still a long way to go. Because we still have 30 days worth of competition left. Should make for a very interesting remainder of the season.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you, King. But they go a full 30 days no matter if it's just one team left?
Well, actually the race is divided into a series of separate races, if you will, but they have to traverse all the stages and hope they get to the end crate, and they can claim one of the medallions, but whoever survives has to survive not only the races, but also the unactive period in survival camp.
Okay.
But they only have 12 hours to race per day. So they've got to be strategic about everything. Especially since they have to fight for their food, like we talked about last week.
That's right.
So that's the update as far as the Race to Survive is concerned. And as I told you last week, American Ninja Warrior kicked off their new season. And we already have it on good authority that this season we have some returning faces, like I told you about last week. This season we have some faces that are competing in their final season, including, this is not confirmed, but I have reason to believe this could be the end of the road for nature favorite Najee Richardson, who's been a standout for multiple seasons now. So it'll be interesting to see how far he can go in his final attempt to win $1 million. So that'll be interesting. And remember, you can catch Ninja Warrior Mondays on NBC. But I believe, not to segue here, Pete, but I believe you had a question.
I did.
As well.
I sure did. I have been seeing rumors that Pat Sajak is leaving Wheel of Fortune after what, like 41 years?
This is not a rumor, my friend. It's true.
So what do you think about that?
This news was broken as far back as last summer. He stated that this season 41 would be his last, and actually his final episode airs tomorrow. So this is the penultimate episode that's airing tonight, and then tomorrow is the 41st season finale and his last show. And I have to tell you, I knew it was coming because we knew he was getting older, and as we know, unfortunately, the sands of time wait for no one. But it's always a little bittersweet, especially if you're someone like myself who's grown up with the show. So,
well,
it'll be interesting to see.
It's definitely been a pinnacle with us, with Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune.
Right. Because as you know, we lost the beloved host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek, back in 2020 to cancer. And I admit, while I still pay attention to the show in detail, if there's like a big tournament or a big champion going on, it just doesn't feel like the same show without Alex, just because I think Ken is, I wouldn't say he's nervous, but he's not as down to earth. Now, I think Ryan Seacrest may be a different story as far as Will Fortune is concerned, just because he has a little more experience in front of the camera. So therefore, he may be able to adapt better than someone who went from being a contestant to a host. So we'll just see over time.
So are there talks Ryan Seacrest is going to take over?
It's confirmed. In fact, he's already started filming the season because he started filming after this past season of American Idol Wrapped.
Wow, he really is the busiest man in show business.
No kidding. But we do know that Pat Sajak intends to remain on the show and if you follow my Facebook page, you may have noticed that I'm posting snippets from WheelOfFortune.com. It's Pat's daughter, Maggie, conducting sort of a farewell interview retrospective, if you will, with her dad, Pat. So you guys might want to check that out. And I will have more information in the weeks to come if we hear of anything interesting. But as always, I appreciate you having me on, and I'll try in throughout the show if you wish.
That's fine with me, man. If it's okay with you, it'll be good It's good to have you on the show. Thank you for that. Thank you for those updates, King. We've had some big news in the sports world this week. A few surprises, a few that have been, kind of not really surprises, but then some that are like, wow. So first we're going to start out with the Cleveland Browns have extended their head coach and GM for multiple years. It wasn't confirmed how many years, but they've been confirmed. So that's a good thing. Kevin Stefanski has been a 2-time Coach of the Year, and he's done a great job. He's taken the Browns farther than any other coach has since, I was going to say Jim Schwartz, but he was in Detroit. But he's taken the Browns farther than they've been since I've been watching football. And I've been watching football for almost 30 years now, because 23 of that was with Brady. Moving on, CeeDee Lamb is skipping the Dallas mini camps because he wants a new contract. Come on, CD. I mean, we knew something was going on last year in the playoffs when you weren't really catching Dak's catches, and you had done phenomenal all year. And so, were you just starting to whine about your contract now? I mean, I get you want a new contract, but don't bring the team down because of one person, because you want it. I get it, but they need you, CD. They need you to be the player you've been, not sit out and whine and complain because you don't get the contract you want. I mean, Justin Jefferson didn't do that. He just got a new contract. He's one of the highest paid, I believe I read he's the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL now. Moving on. Novak Djokovic, who was the number 1 tennis player in the world, withdrew from the French Open with a knee injury. Now, he's going to go in and have a procedure on this knee and get it right again. But withdrawing from the French Open, he forfeited his number 1 ranking as a tennis player. And now that's shocking to me because I don't think he's had many injuries that I've known about since I've been watching sports and tennis and all that. And granted, one of the first tennis matches I ever watched was a Djokovic match, and it ran for 4 hours. So when you see the way they move, it was bound to happen. But to lose his number 1 ranking kind of shocked me a little bit because I've never known that to be a thing, but I guess it is. So, as good as he's been,
I don't mean to interject here, Pete, but the fact is, we all know injuries can happen at any time. That's why it's important for elite athletes to be as agile as they are, because fitness is a very big part of the game, and injuries can happen at any time.
That's right. Look how
experienced you are.
Right. Look at football. They have injuries all the time. And freak accidents.
Exactly. Speaking of freak accidents, I did hint at you when we were talking earlier in the week. I think I said something about a former Panthers player passing or something.
You did. It was a Dallas Cowboys player. Yeah, it was a Dallas Cowboys Hall of Famer who I believe played back in the 80s. He died at I believe it was 71 years old.
Okay.
And he had been inducted into the Hall of Fame back in the mid-90s. So, yeah, I mean, that was a big loss. So, thank you for bringing that up. I had forgotten about that, but thank you for bringing that up. But
yeah, I got a confirmation from one of my news apps, but I never saw a name, so I didn't know one where the other.
yeah, it was a Cowboys player, and he was playing back in the '80s, so that was before Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and all that, and that was before they really came to, their dynasty. I think it was probably the start of it, but
Wow.
But hopefully, Djokovic can regain that number one ranking. And, we'll just see how that goes. But thank you for reminding me of that Cowboys player, too.
Yes.
And speaking of football, have you been keeping up with the United Football League?
I confess, no, I have not. I do know that they're about to enter into their, I don't know if you call it playoff season or whatever, but I think this is week 10 or 11 coming up.
It is. I believe it's week 10. So on Saturday, I can confirm this real quick. Give me just a second. They had next week is the semifinals. So what we had now was the last week of the season per se.
Right. Okay.
So if you've been following and watching along, I've been a big proponent of the Birmingham Stallions because they were undefeated all year until like 2 weeks ago. And they lost one game to a team that really surprised me. But they were gone. They were done that 1 week, and now they've come back. And the Stallions defeated the Panthers 20-19. So the Stallions are now 9-1. The Panthers dropped to 7-3. Now the Stallions are my pick to win it all this year. I believe they've got a stacked team, and if you remember watching them from when they were in their league before, they were really, hard hit, and they just really left it all on the field. When they say I left it all on the field, that's what it is, and that's what they've been doing all season. So on Saturday we had the Stallions defeat the Panthers. And the Battlehawks improved to 7-3, defeating the Brahmas, who dropped to 7-3 by a score of 13-12. Now that looked like an interesting game. I mean, it's a nail biter, so you kind of want to make sure you clip your nails before you watch a game like that, so you're not biting them the whole time. But I mean, there've been a few games like that have just really been good games, surprising games. So, if you ask me right now who I think the champion's going to be, I'm going to say Birmingham. But I think the Battlehawks could be in there too to go for the championship. So on Sunday, we had the Renegades improve to 3-7. Defeating the Defenders, who dropped to 4-6 by a score of 32-31. Again, another tight game, but the Renegades, like I said last week, hit their stride too late in the season. They were the defending, I believe it was XFL champions. So at the beginning of the year, it was the Stallions and the Renegades playing, and the Stallions just wiped the floor with the Renegades. But this was the end of their season. They thanked the fans, and we look forward to y'all next season, seeing if y'all can bring it up and step it up better than you did this year. Also on Sunday, we had the Showboats improved to 2-8, defeating the Roughnecks, who dropped to 1-9 by a score of 19-12. So this was it for their seasons too. I know this was only season 1 for the UFL, and you just needed to find your footing, and that's what it all was. It's a blessing somebody like the Stallions continued their success and were, kept that dominance the whole time. So next week, or this coming Saturday, we start the semifinals. Now, one day, it's a Saturday, Sunday. So the Saturday games are the USFL, old USFL teams, and Sunday are the old XFL teams. So again, it's going to break down to a USFL champion, XFL champion, and then those two teams will go on to the finals June 15th through 18th that weekend. And that will determine who the champion of the UFL is. So starting the semifinals on Saturday, we've got the Panthers, who are 7-3 from Michigan, at the Birmingham Stallions, who's 9-1. Now I know you're like, well, they just played each other, right? But this is how the rankings ended up. I mean, the two best teams in the USFL against the two best teams in the XFL to determine who the champion. So I honestly believe this is going to end up being a one-score game. It might even be a one-point game. But I believe the Stallions are going to win.
I don't know if I go that far, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, anything's possible, right, man?
Yeah, it is.
But I think the Stallions are going to come out and they're going to compete for the championship again. And I know I've said that all season. I sound like a broken record, but I honestly believe that.
Hey, your opinion's your opinion, and people will say whatever they think.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Finals. I don't mean to steal a segue here, but I did hear this morning that the NBA finals are finally happening.
Yep.
After all the back and forth, after all the pomp and circumstance. I understand Boston's on one side, but I don't know who the other team is.
Yep. We'll get to that. That's actually going to be our next sport to cover, King.
All right.
So we'll actually get to that here in a few minutes. So on Sunday, we're going to have the XFL championship, and the Brahmas, who are 7-3, are going to be at the Battlehawks, who are 7-3. Now this one, I can't call. Honestly, I can't call this one. My gut's telling me the Battlehawks, but we'll see how it goes. So keep an eye out Saturday and Sunday for the USFL semifinals, or the UFL semifinals. And as...
So hold on a second.
Okay.
Hold on. You said your gut's leading you towards the Battlehawks, but what about them in your mind makes you stand out since the teams are so even?
Because the Battlehawks, even though they've got a record of 7-3, I've gone back and I've looked, and they've had closer games than the Brahmas have.
So you think it comes down to the overall scoring throughout the entire season?
Right. I believe that. Honestly, I think the Battlehawks just have a better team surrounding them, and I think it deals with the scoring. I think it deals with the coaching. I just think they've got better coaching and better plays all around. Because I've watched highlights. I'll be the first to admit I haven't been able to watch every game this season, but I've gone and seen highlights from them, and the Battlehawks seem to have a better understanding and more complete players.
You think they have a better ability to adapt as a team?
Correct. Correct. And that's what I was trying to say about the Stallions. They adapted better. switching from the USFL to the UFL, they adapted better. So that was a good.
Definitely makes sense.
So I honestly, if you ask me to pick who I think the finals are going to be, I think it's going to be the Battlehawks and the Stallions, and I think the Stallions are going to win. So
only time will tell.
That's right. Keep an eye out June 15th through 18th to see how that turns out. So as you alluded to, King, we do have the NBA Finals starting actually tonight. And if you've been keeping, I know I started doing the show back in January when the end of the season was winding down.
Right.
But I've, through this whole playoff season, have said the Celtics are going to win this series. But tonight is Game 1 on ABC at 8:30. It's the Dallas Mavericks going up against the Boston Celtics. And I think it's going to go into 6 games. And the reason I say 6 games is because the Celtics have been scoring great all season. They've been, they've topped the East. And they've got Jason Tatum, I think is his name. I know Tatum's his last name. But the Mavericks have...
I think you're right. I think his name is Jason. I don't know. But
yeah, I think it's Jason too. But the Mavericks, here's the kicker though. The Mavericks have Kyrie Irving and Luka on their team. Now they've got 2 big players. Now granted, you can't build the team around 2 players, but I mean, those 2 players could score 45, 50 points in the game and really give it to the Celtics.
Right.
But Tatum, if he has a good game, he's just clicking on all cylinders. He can outscore both of them.
So here's my question.
Okay.
You said you think this series is going to go 6 games?
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's my thing. If you think from the very beginning, you've been saying from the very beginning that you think Boston's going to win. So what makes you think Dallas can actually prevent this from being a runaway and make it that even?
That's a good question, but I honestly think that the addition of Kyrie and Luka have a lot to do with that. Because if you go back and you look at the season for Dallas, both of those players, I've seen things where both of those players have outscored entire teams.
Right.
So Luka and Kyrie could score 80 points and still lose the game, but at least that's Dallas's advantage. But Boston might have somebody in the background that they've just been saving for the playoffs.
The wild card, if you will.
Right, and if you follow football does that all the time. There's always one team or one player that they kind of save for the playoffs, so they don't play him as much.
Sort of the proverbial secret weapon.
Correct.
So we'll see.
So there might be a proverbial secret weapon that Boston has. Now, if you remember the last game that the Celtics had, I believe his last name was Brown. He scored the game winner. It could be Brown this season for Boston. But honestly, I think Boston is just more hungry for it. Because they went 2 years ago and they were eliminated by... they went 2 years ago and lost to Golden State. And then they made it to the championship games last year and missed it by, I think, 2 games by going to the finals when Miami beat them. So I just think they're more hungry for it.
Well, as we know, as in sports, as in life, your ability to succeed depends on your ability to adapt. So we'll just see.
That's right.
How good these teams are at learning from each other. We'll see how it goes.
So here we go. It looks like for the season, Boston's season record is 64-18. They've had 64 wins and 18 losses.
Wow.
Dallas has 50 wins and 32 losses. So, yeah. So, honestly,
my tongue, it is a more even final than I anticipated.
I know, I didn't expect that either. But I honestly believe this is going to be one of the best finals we've seen in a very long time. And you know one thing I think is going to make it so much better? There's no LeBron James in it.
Whoa.
Yeah. And you know that I've never been a big LeBron fan. I've always thought he always thought he was better than.
Well, they say if you can back it up, it's not being cocky, it's just being confident. However, there is such a thing as being overconfident.
Right.
And I admit, I think he can be overconfident at times.
He has been. And I honestly, and this is pure opinion from me, the rings that he got in Miami, those were because of Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh.
Whoa.
Yeah. Now, granted, LeBron was on the team, but he wasn't the only person on the team like he thought. And then when he won his championship with the Lakers, think about this. What happened around the time the Lakers won the championship with him?
They traded him.
No, Kobe passed away.
Oh, right.
So
2020, the helicopter crash.
That's right. And that was around the time the Lakers won the championship. So, yeah, LeBron was on the team, but I honestly believe that Kobe was watching over him to help him out. Because I think they were...
Sort of divine intervention.
Right.
Maybe.
Correct. Because I think they were in a win or go home situation before the playoffs started. And then they pushed it to the brink every game until the finals.
Right.
So, honestly, that's pure opinion from me. But that's what I think. And I think these finals are going to be better because we're not going to have LeBron in there.
Yeah, so again, game 1 will air this evening on ABC
at 8:30.
And you can catch the other games sporadically throughout the week.
That's right. I think it's Thursday and Sunday, and then more throughout the week, and up until we get to a Game 7, if we need a Game 7.
Right.
Like I said, I don't see this going to Game 7, but we'll see. So, not only do we have the NBA Finals starting, we have the Stanley Cup starting this week. Actually starting on Saturday. So, before I get to that, we had Game 6 on Saturday between the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers, where the Panthers defeated the Rangers 2-1. So, the Panthers won that series 4-2. Making it to the Stanley Cup, and they awaited the Oilers-Stars winner. Now, that game, that Oilers-Stars game was kind of bittersweet for me. Because I've been a Stars fan since I started watching hockey, because, as I said at the beginning of the playoff season, the Predators and the Stars, Nashville and Dallas were the two teams I went and saw live in Nashville. So the Panthers defeated the Rangers 2-1 for a 4-2 series win on Saturday. And then on Sunday, the Oilers defeated the Stars 2-1 to win that series 4-2. So game 1 of the Stanley Cup is at 8 o'clock on Saturday night on ABC, and the first game is in Florida. Now, you're going to laugh when I say this, King. I've got Florida winning this series on the sole fact that they're an American hockey team.
Wait, that's got nothing to do with whether they win or lose.
Right. Well, it's partial because we're in the States. The other team, guess where they're from?
Canada?
Edmonton, Canada. Yep. Now, granted.
Hold on, Buck.
Now,
hold on there, Buck.
I knew you.
You cannot possibly justify a pick based on whether a team is American or Canadian.
No, I know, and then I thought, okay, so Edmonton and Canada are known for their hockey, but now think about this: the Panthers have made it into the playoffs for the past several years and made it far into the playoffs the past several years. The Oilers haven't.
What always happens to them? They
were like the Celtics last year. They made it to the last round and then lost in like 6 games.
Because they choked.
Exactly. But Edmonton's been choking for years. They haven't even made it to the finals in years.
Oh, so you're picking them, so you're rooting against them solely because you think they're an underdog team.
Correct. Now, granted, the underdogs do normally always surprise. But as history has gone on, and if I'm wrong, you guys can correct me on this, but as history states, normally it's not that's normally the case, but sometimes it kind of bites you too. And this might bite it for the Oilers. It might surprise us, and it might go into 7 games. But if the Panthers can beat a team like the Boston Bruins, who were the team to beat all season long, I mean, they got to be doing something right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So, again, that game is on ABC on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. So I'll keep you guys updated on how that's going, and I'll do it just like I've been doing every time, and just go from there. So keep an eye on those playoff games. Now we're going to move in to some NASCAR news. Now, as I stated on Friday, they raced in St. Louis, which surprised me. Did you even know that they had a track in St. Louis, King?
I did not.
I didn't either.
I knew they had one in Atlanta. I knew they had one in Daytona. But not St. Louis.
And obviously we've got one in North Carolina.
Right.
So,
Charlotte.
Right. So this was kind of an interesting race because we had Ryan Blaney, who is the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, leading this race up until 2 laps to go. So Austin Cindric ended up winning the race because with 2 laps to go, Ryan Blaney ran out of gas.
Oh.
Now you can look at that and you can say, oh, it was just an error. Yes, it is an error in judgment. But you know what else it kind of showed? Cindric.
People are human.
Right. But Cindric was pushing Ryan Blaney this whole time to help him run out of gas, because they do that at the end of the races. If it's a tight race.
Hold on. You're telling me they try to help each other run out of gas on purpose?
Sometimes. If it's under 10 laps to go, okay, so let's say, just like what happened on Sunday, let's say Cedric and Blaney are running close to each other and there's seconds in between them. Cedric can ride up on the bumper of Ryan Blaney and force Ryan Blaney to keep his foot on the gas instead of let up, because a lot of these drivers just coast around the track to preserve gas.
You know, as fast as they go in a circle, they have a better chance of a tire falling off than running out of gas, in my mind.
Yeah, and we've seen that. We've seen where the tires haven't been on all the way, and the tires flown off. So we've seen that. So Cedric won the race. Denny Hamlin came in second. Brad Keselowski came in third. And Tyler Reddick came in fourth. So Ryan Blaney ended up finishing 24th in this race after his running out of gas. Now, this has happened before, but this hasn't happened. The first time I saw it happen, Dale Jr. ran out of gas, leading the race, just like Blaney. So,
but you haven't seen anybody drop that low in a long time?
Right. I haven't seen that happen in a long time. Now, I've seen accidents happen, and that happened, but not run out of gas. So Kyle Larson finished 10th, and Chase Elliott finished 13th. Now, I bring that up about Kyle Larson because, as y'all remember last week, I stated that, and you might remember this too, King, that Kyle Larson ran the Indianapolis 500 and was going to run the Coke 600.
Right.
And this has been
and he ran them both on the same day, or attempted to.
He attempted to, but he didn't make it because he got to Charlotte with like 52 laps to go, and then they called the race for rain.
Yeah.
So, if you follow NASCAR,
I'm surprised we got as much of the race in here in Charlotte as we did, because that rain Sunday, we knew it was coming, but it came out of nowhere.
Absolutely.
It came on hard.
It did. And we've had storms throughout the week since then that have been that bad.
Right.
But I brought up Kyle Larson because, yes, he ran the Indianapolis 500, made it to Charlotte, but they called the race. Now, if you follow NASCAR, you know that you have to win a race to get in the chase. They're calling it the playoffs, but I still call it the chase.
Right.
Which is funny. When Chase Elliott goes in, I like saying Chase is in the chase. But
makes sense.
I know it's corny, but it's fun.
Hey, it's your show. You can say whatever you want.
Hey, I say it outside the show, too. If people ask me about the chase, I'm like, hey, Chase is in the chase. And they just look at me like, huh? But it's still funny. But this week, it came out that Kyle Larson got a waiver for the playoffs for missing the Coke 600. Now, what does that mean?
It means that, I would think it means they give him a bypass, doesn't it?
Correct. It means since he didn't run the Coke 600, you would think that would knock him out of playoff contention, but it doesn't. With this waiver, he still is able to compete for the championship, even though he missed pretty much the entire race last week. And honestly, I know, right? And see, you know, Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson are two of my favorite active drivers.
Right.
All time, I've been a Jimmy Johnson fan. But active drivers, it's been Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott. Kyle being my second favorite. And granted, he's had some issues. He's gone into some trouble, but, but he's worked through that. And he's come out better for it. So, keep an eye on the race this week. I'll let you guys know next week where they raced and how it ended up. And in the comments, let me know who you guys' favorite drivers are. If you guys even like NASCAR. If you guys like any of the sports and want to cover any of it, let me know y'all's thoughts on it. So that was all for sports news. Now we're going to move into what we're listening to and who we're listening to. And who we're listening to this week is rock band Evanescence. Now, as everybody knows...
One of my faves.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love Evanescence, don't you?
Yeah.
As everybody knows, they formed in 1994. They started out... I don't know if you knew this, King, but they actually started out as a Christian rock band.
I did not know that.
Yes. I was surprised to learn that.
Considering they were primarily heavy metal in the early 2000s.
That's right, with Bring Me to Life, which was off their debut Fallen album, which is a fantastic album. I highly recommend it. But they formed in 94. Their first single that was commercialized was Bring Me to Life in 2003. Can you believe it's been that long?
Actually, I can't, because if you follow professional wrestling like I do, you may remember that song was used as the theme song for the No Way Out pay-per-view in 2003.
Was it really?
Yep.
Wow. I guess they do bring new music in, huh? Because I remember when Three Doors Down released their album 17 Days and they had Behind Blue Eyes. I think I saw stuff on TV about that being their theme song.
And actually, you mentioned the Fallen album. Well, they do use modern music quite often. I mentioned Bring Me to Life as the theme for No Way Out in 2003. But a few months later, they used Evanescence song My Immortal to pay tribute to classic Freddie Blassie following his passing.
My Immortal
2003.
is an absolutely fantastic song.
Gorgeous.
Yes. In fact, with My Immortal, there's actually two versions of it. They've got one where it's just the piano version and a slower version.
Right.
And then they've got another one with the drums in it.
Right.
I'm more partial to the one with the drums in it. Even though,
too.
Yeah. So, the first song I ever heard from them was actually Bring Me to Life. And I fell in love with that song. And
As did I.
Yes, and that actually had it was confusing to people because you thought in 2003 that was the height of nu metal, which is kind of what they consider Evanescence as now, rock nu metal type stuff. But that was the height of the nu metal season, where it was Linkin Park and Korn and all these groups that had two singers to them. Right. So when Bring Me to Life came out, it was Paul McCoy guest vocaled on that song. And he was actually in the group 12 Stone, and everybody that I knew thought Paul McCoy was in Evanescence.
I know who 12 Stone is because they released We're One, didn't they?
Yes, and one of my favorite songs from them, actually one of my favorite songs in general, is one of theirs that's called The Way I Feel. And
I'm familiar with that too.
That's one of my favorites. And I'll actually do a what we're listening to on 12 Stone in the future and bring that up. But, I had to really do some digging to find out before that he wasn't a part of Evanescence. But they've gone through lineup changes, guitars, because Ben Moody left the band right after Fallen came out. And I don't know why, but, he's gone on to have a solo career.
He might have fallen out with a female lead.
I like that pun there. Because I do believe...
I had to do it.
I do believe back in the day, Amy Lee and Ben Moody were dating, and then forming the band did, like, stop them. And did, like, hamper it a little bit. But since they debuted, they've had 5 albums. And honestly, my 2 favorite albums are Fallen and The Bitter Truth. And honestly, in my opinion, The Bitter Truth actually goes back to their Fallen days in the way the songs sound. So if you haven't listened to The Bitter Truth, listen to it. Because it is a fantastic album, just like their debut. So that brings me to the song we're listening to, and it's a song called The Game Is Over, and it's off the Bitter Truth album. Yeah.
Okay.
And it has that it kind of has that real rock sound to it. It's, slow and then starts out slow, but then gets more into it. So one more thing I'm gonna cover in music news is Scotty McCreery, who is a North Carolina boy who won season 10. Garner, North Carolina, that's right. Who won season 10 of American Idol, which shocks me. He was inducted into the Grand Ole Opry Hall of Fame this last weekend. Now, I have been a Scotty McCreery fan since he was on American Idol. And granted, I'm partial to all these North Carolina contestants. I want them all to win. That's why I think it's hilarious they have multiple people from North Carolina in these shows, And, and people that watch The Voice remember dude from Kannapolis was on there and came in third. No, he came in second. He was runner-up.
He came in second,
yeah. He was runner-up. But, as we established, Scotty's one whose career has been good, winning American Idol, just like Carrie Underwood, where a lot of them just kind of fade away into the distance. He hadn't done that. He stayed relevant.
Well, I have to tell you, I really think there's a secret behind success, specifically in country music. And that is that most of the country stars that come for these shows, like American Idol, they aren't just a flash in the pan singer who will do anything the producers want. They remain true to themselves at all costs.
That's right.
That's honestly why I think Scotty McCreery is so successful, just because he's so humble.
Yeah.
You might remember seeing him when he first came home as part of the Final 3 for his Idol Homecoming. They brought Josh Turner out there to surprise him, and he was as humble as anybody, but he stayed true to himself. He kept it together on stage, and he blew the roof off that place.
He did, and you know who inducted Scotty into the Hall of Fame? Josh Turner. Actually,
I kind of had a feeling that was going to happen because he always said Long Black Train was one of his favorite songs of all time.
In fact, if you go back and you watch that video, it was Josh Turner and Randy Travis come out. Now, Randy Travis was Josh Turner's idol. Josh is Scotty's idol. So there were 3 generations there, and in his speech, Josh said, "I'm proud to be the one to bridge the gap between Randy Travis and Scotty McCreery."
Wow.
So I thought it was great. And I'll be the first person to tell you that I was crying during that induction ceremony.
I can believe it.
Because
I have to tell you, you said it kind of surprised you when Scotty beat Lauren.
I was.
I was watching that season live in 2011 as it went down. The first time I heard Scotty's voice, I said right from the beginning, I know this kid's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew he had some in him because how could you not fall in love with a voice that deep?
Exactly. And being a country fan, being a Josh Turner fan too, I saw those Josh Turner vibes.
Exactly.
Yep. So we want to congratulate Scotty, and again, I'll do a what we're listening to with Scotty in the future, probably the near future.
Right.
So now we're going to move into some motivational stuff.
Right.
And I'm just going to say, just don't let the negativity bog you down, because there's a lot of negative out there, and you need to be the light in this negative world right now.
Well, I would second that, but I will say one thing. In terms of being the light, not only do you need to be the light for yourself, but you need to be the light for everybody else.
That's right.
That means if you make a promise, you keep it.
That's right.
And you do whatever you can to hold true to those promises no matter what.
That's right.
Because I think that's the problem with society today. A lot of people make promises to people, but they get so tied up in their day-to-day lives and the hysteria, they lose track of what's really important.
That's right.
And while it may not seem like a big deal to the average person, to somebody else, it may mean everything.
That's right. And you know,
because especially if you're dealing with someone or something beyond your control, the friendship is really the key to getting past whatever you face.
That's right. And that's right. And that's why I'm grateful I have good friends who I consider family, like you, James, who, help me keep my head straight and help me stay on that right path.
Trust me, man, we all fall from that green path in one way or another at some point.
That's right.
It's recognizing the problem and figuring out how to bounce back. Sometimes we need a little help, and there's nothing wrong with that.
That's right, and that's why you have people.
It's recognizing that there is a problem and figuring out a way to bounce back.
And that's why you have people surrounding you that keep you built up and keep you on the right track.
Exactly.
And always have somebody there to talk to when you're having those bad times.
Amen, brother.
That's right.
Amen.
That's right. So, do you have anything else to add, James?
Well, again, as a memo for all your fans, just remember, be true to yourself, but also be true to everyone else, because that's all you can give to anybody.
That's right.
But as usual, thank you for having me on.
You're welcome.
I look forward to coming back and assisting you in the future.
And thank you for staying through the whole show. It was fun, man. And I want to
more than happy to do it.
And I want to thank you guys for going the distance with me this week, and join me next week when we go the distance again. And remember, this week, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and comment. It really helps me out. So y'all have a good weekend and a good week ahead. And God bless y'all. See y'all next week.